Double dipping this week on the Around the League podcast. We previewed the divisional games earlier this week, reviewed some of those wild card games. Check that out. That dropped Monday night, Tuesday morning. Go check that out if you haven't already. But we left out one game intentionally. Rob, we got a nice little preview here today of the Eagles and Giants. You ready for it?
Oh, yes, we do. And we have the Eagle Up boy and the Giant Up boys here. So let's get after it. Can't wait. We've been waiting all week for this one.
Let's do it. We're going to go around the horn, reintroducing the guys here. Start with you, Justin. Man, you haven't been on the show officially yet. You joined Giant Up midway through the season. Welcome, man. Welcome.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. This has been awesome. Me and Joe, obviously on opposite coasts. We've been, this is a nice way for us to catch up every week and just, kind of get on and chop it up like we would at home.
I love it. Joe, I'll toss it over to you, man. I mean, you've been with Roster Up for a couple years now. You've been running the Giant Up show since its inception. Welcome back.
It's great to be back. Always a pleasure. I'm excited to talk some Giant football now that it actually means something and it feels good and we're not all sad. So I'm excited to be back here, man. I love Roster Up. It's been great being here for 2 years. And it's been great getting Justin's help this year, man. Getting him on the pod was a big addition.
Absolutely. You guys are great to listen to. Really enjoyed you two Justin taking over the Twitter. I didn't realize he's been the one with some of the all caps tweets. I thought that was all Joe. But it looks like it's both you. So it looks like they kind of complement each other with the energy there. But Matt, over at Eagle Up, season one, he's looking to have season one continue with a win against the Giants this week. Matt, welcome, man.
Thanks, man. And it's certainly been an exciting first season, obviously, being the first seed in the NFC. We're looking to obviously, play our,
I think we lost him.
Our divisional.
I think we did.
You lost me?
You got a bit of a lag there, Matt, but we caught some of that there. We'll kind of keep it moving for the time being. He just wanted to pause for a little bit of dramatic effect there. Rob, I'm going to kind of let you take away the first couple talking points here. Matt, if you have some connectivity issues, feel free to hop off and then back on. But Rob, take it away kind of with some of the notes previewing this Giants-Eagles game. You were one that was wanting absolute prison rules in not just this matchup, but really just this conversation. He wants haymakers thrown back and forth between Roster Up podcasts. So preview this game for me a little bit, and I want you to kind of take me into the receipts.
Yeah, the receipts will come up in a minute here, but absolutely, I want prison rules, no holds bar, all out, tables, ladders, chairs match here. So I think we have the right personalities on this channel right now to do that. So just been looking forward to this. So yeah, let me just preview off kind of the lines and what's looking at for this Giants-Eagles matchup. So I don't really look too much into this stuff as far as previous matchups, past years I'm talking about. So 4 playoff meetings between the two teams in the history of their playoff meetings. They split 2-2. This week, Eagles have a 7.5 point. They're 7.5 point favorites, 46.5 point total. One thing I wanted to note. So one thing that I think this is probably my first question. So this will be for the Giant Up guys, and then it can kind of roll right into the Eagles discussion. So Eagles allow the 4th most rushing yards to QBs this year throughout the whole year. I know that's been Daniel Jones' strength. He's been one of the best rushing quarterbacks, dual threats this year. He's taken a massive leap that I know anybody watching Giants football has noticed this year. He was coming into the year with a lot of questions, and I think those questions have been answered. And a big part of that is his rushing ability. So how does that really make you guys feel going into this game? I know both of these teams matched up this year. Eagles took both wins, but in those games, neither team was really at full strength. So this is going to be the first time we kind of see a full strength matchup in the playoffs. So I'll kind of pass it over to Giant Up guys. What is your confidence going into this game with your leader, Daniel Jones?
Riv, take it away.
All right, no problem. So throughout the whole year, me and Joe, and you could I know, Rob, you love keeping your receipts. You could go back to the pod and check. I mean, there was in the beginning of the year more than now, honestly, lately, I wanted the Giants to go more towards DJ using his legs and kind of making things happen in that sense. But I mean, last week and the last few weeks, I think it's been shown that he's kind of more well-rounded than people really thought. He could kill you in a bunch of different ways, which is why I think that he's answered those questions, like you said, for us at least. I know for me and Joe sent out, his big apology tweet to Giant family, talking about how he was a DJ non-believer and how he proved them wrong. And Joe's one of millions probably that felt that way. So I think that it's just for every Giant fan, and I'm speaking on behalf of them because I'm sure of this, is that we're comfortable going into any game with DJ as our leader right now.
Yeah, that's a good point because I want to bring up something that I had said to you guys a long time ago. I want to say it was early in the season, week 3, 4 maybe, where I questioned the Giants' ability to compete with the NFC East guys, the Cowboys and the Eagles. And you guys were very quick to shoot me down and say that that you were confident in the Giants, and you proved me wrong, and you prove yourself right. So really looking forward to this matchup. Obviously, I think you guys would agree that pretty much everybody outside of Giants Nation is pretty much on the Eagles this weekend. Haven't seen much of Giants have a chance outside of Giants fans and people that are, in the New York area. So that kind of leads me to my first receipt that I want to bring up with the Eagle Up team. So following the 48-22 win against the Giants on December 11th, Eagle Up tweeted, and I quote, "It's the weeks like this where you have to think which NFC team can compete with the Eagles. Their offense is simply too hard to stop." That was the quote. This quote was followed up with not the best results in the next couple of games. A 5-point win versus the Bears, a loss to the Cowboys without Jalen Hurts, a loss to the Saints, a loss to the Saints without Hurts as well, and a tight game with the Giants backups. So how do we feel going into this weekend? Do you
I believe that was Davis Mills' first start. Can you, Joe? Is that his first start ever?
First start ever.
I wanted to make sure I didn't want to.
So how do we feel, Eagle family? Are you still standing firm with nobody in the NFC can compete?
I am still standing firm with that. We have seen that those next couple of games, there was a couple of asterisks around there. Like we had maybe the Bears game, obviously the offense didn't get off to a hot start. It was an away game. It also was coming off of absolutely smacking our division rival. So everyone's a little bit more confident. Everyone's a little bit more relaxed. They're playing the Bears. And, they had to deal with Justin Fields. And we all know how Justin Fields played this year. But then you obviously have Jalen Hurts get hurt in that game. And now you go to the Cowboys on Christmas Eve, which our offense still lit it up, even with Gardner Minshew. I mean, that game was 40-34, and it obviously didn't go our way. We weren't at 100%, and then we get to the Saints game. And Gardner Minshew looked like a deer in headlights against the Saints. And everyone saw it. We weren't at full strength. We also didn't have Lane Johnson. And we all know how this line plays up. We have one of the best lines in football, but we have seen when Lane is out, it is not the same offensive line, which we'll be getting him back this week too. We'll see how bad the abdominal injury is. He's saying that it's not that bad. He said he'd rather deal with this than an ankle soreness or when he was dealing with the ankle injury prior. So we'll see how the offense obviously comes out. The link's going to be rocking. Jalen Hurts was off the injury report, and this offense is pretty much at full health. And they're looking to, make a statement. Obviously, the Giants are coming in as a very hot team. I'll congratulate you guys because I do like when the NFC Beast is back, and I like when all the teams are good. And look, you guys outplayed expectations this year, and it just makes for the playoff run to be even better if we have to beat the Giants and ultimately maybe the Cowboys in the championship game.
Giant Up, anything to say to that?
To be honest, and I'll say this, I was also extremely upset during that first matchup against the Eagles. We obviously weren't at full strength. We've dealt with the most injuries It's nothing new for Giant fans. We dealt with a violent amount of injuries. We just weren't in the right place to play against the Eagles that game. And then we come across them in the final week of the season with all of our backups, and we kind of play up to par, and we only lose by a touchdown. And
that game wasn't even close until the end. That was a garbage time touchdown. Garbage time touchdown.
Yeah, but they still competed till the last whistle, and I think people are going to be surprised at the Giant team that you're going to find. They're getting better and better every week. They're becoming more cohesive. There are 3 receivers that just stormed up the depth chart. Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, and Richie James have been formidable the last few weeks. Hodgins especially has been one of the better receivers, probably the best receiver on the Giants in the last few weeks, and came out of nowhere. They're playing at an all-time level, and that's because of one man, the magic man, Brian Dable, saved the career of Daniel Jones. I love Daniel Jones, but he puts him in a position every single week to play the best football that he can play, and we're going to see a different team, a motivated team this time around against the Eagles. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. It's tough.
Actually, I honestly, I've been hearing that all week, right? And I even was one person to actually believe that it's hard to beat a team 3 times. We obviously saw the 49ers do it last week. And then, I was looking at some stats. So since 1994, there's been teams have played each other 3 times in a season. And the winning team, or the team that, is 2-0, has won 12 out of the 17 times. So that's a pretty good win percentage for a team playing 3 times.
I love history and all, but none of those teams, I bet none of those teams had Brian Dable as a coach. I don't think so. I don't know if it's relatable in this situation. My big thing, Matt, for you is, when would you say the last time what week was it the last time that Jalen Hurts played a meaningful quarter of football in terms of, I guess, a competition, from a competition standpoint?
Well, obviously, if you're saying from a competition standpoint, and you're saying because you guys didn't play any starters and you didn't have your whole team, I mean, that's a meaningful game for us. We had to win that game because our backup quarterback didn't get the job done. If our backup quarterback got the job done, he's never even in that situation. And I don't want to hear anything about the last week. Our offense was not even showing what we were capable of. You had no design runs for Jalen Hurts because of his shoulder. He wasn't even rolling out of the pocket. It's a totally different offense. And that game, we wasn't even close until you guys scored that last touchdown. Wasn't even close.
I don't know. I'm just from my perspective of things, Rob. I know you were a college athlete. Just in terms of, I don't know anybody that. There's never been a time, I don't think, that somebody's came back in terms of football not playing meaningful football for, I would say, about a month now, coming back against a hot Giant team like this and being able to kind of just pick it up and go. I mean, there were some Eagles fans that weren't even sure if Jalen Hurts was the guy prior to this year. And now in the beginning of the year, he showed that. But you're telling me that there's no Eagle fans out there that are like, ooh, wow, like Jalen really hasn't been played any really hard-nosed football in a month. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure there are Eagles fans that are still possibly not even high on Jalen Hurts anymore. But the same thing can be, I know Daniel Jones is on a hot streak right now, but a lot of you Giants fans didn't really believe in him until this year either.
Fair, quite fair. I was one of those fans.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure that a lot of people were trying to get him out of the building prior this season, even with Dable.
Yeah,
me.
I think you're probably right. That's Joe's one of them.
Yeah, but he looked so bad for a couple years. Like, Rob and I have talked about that a lot. Like, I thought he was a backup in the league after this season. Period. End of story. Like, that's all she wrote. And honestly, for the first half of this season, he was not good. And I'm interested to get really everyone's takes on this, because Rob and I talked about it on Monday. And the Giants, like, when they started out 5-0. And like, just my opinion, sitting here watching it, like, they look like they stumbled to 5-0. Like, it was accidental, and that's why everyone was saying they're not a threat. They're going to fall apart. The wheels are going to come off. They had some fortunate wins. It just looked like they were like, oh my God, we won. I can't believe we did it, guys. We didn't even mean to. And then by the time you get to season's end, like, they look like the aggressor. They kind of look like against Minnesota, like they came out and took it. but they came out and took it not just as the aggressor, but also they looked good doing it. Like Daniel Jones, this is actually an interesting stat I saw this week. The Giants were a below average team in pass rate over expectation all season. Out of all of the playoff teams, they had the largest jump in pass rate over expectation. They were well below average, and they had the highest pass rate over expectation by a wide margin of any wild card team that played over this past weekend. And Daniel Jones, when you watch the game, he looked decisive and he looked good. So I'm just interested to get at what week do you guys think it clicked? For me, I'm a lot of times just kind of looking at stats, looking at numbers, or watching Red Zone. I'm not watching the whole game a lot of times, or I'm watching clips. But I do specifically remember early in the season, they just looked like they were accidentally winning. And then you kind of flip it on towards the end of the season, and especially last week against Minnesota, who we all kind of knew were frauds. But the Giants came out, and they looked like they were the much better team. I mean, at what point in the season did it click with them, or did you guys think, we're looking good? Like in that 5-0 start, were you feeling fortunate, or were you thinking, this is we look good?
I think it was less of it. I don't know if Joe would agree, but I think that it was less for me of actually it clicking. I don't think it was confusion and then all of a sudden one game they kind of put it all together. I think it was a comfortable, slow buildup is what I like to look at it as. I think it was Dable was coming in with this completely new culture. He was hungry, clearly, he was looking for something out of certain players. And I think that throughout the weeks, people kind of started realizing that you could start off with our receiving core in general. It was a mess. It was Sterling Shepard went down, and you have guys like Richie James as your keynote receiver. Kenny Galladay's nowhere to be found. Got guys like Kadarius Toney that end up leaving us, and it kind of all seems like a mess. But now it looks like it was more of a bigger plan. It's Dable's. We have Galladay; he's healthy now, but Dable's way more comfortable with the guys that he has out there. And I think that in the beginning, it kind of started off. You were talking about DJ, and the first 5 weeks he didn't look good, but I think it was also a slow build up to him getting comfortable and building confidence in himself. And I think that once he saw that the coaching staff and his teammates had confidence in him, then he was able to kind of establish that confidence in himself. And I think he started playing a completely different brand of football.
Yeah, because he was fitting the ball into tight spaces on Sunday.
Oh yeah, and that's the last 2 weeks too. He's looked great.
Yeah, that's why. What do you think, Joe? How did you feel early on?
Early on, I still did not want him to be the quarterback. I said it week after week, even when they were 5-0, as good as they were, even going into their bye week. I still didn't want him to be the quarterback next year, and I respected him for what he was doing. I respected him for playing hard still, despite all of the injuries. But I still didn't think it was worth having him come back as our quarterback next year until literally, I think, week 16, the first game against the Vikings. He threw for over 300 yards. And I know the Vikings defense is also pitiful too, by the way, so it does help a bit. But to see him throw for over 300 yards, he did have an interception in that game that it was a tight interception. But I think when I saw him that comfortable in such a big moment against the team like the Vikings, even though they are a bit overrated, was when it fully clicked for me, where I was like, wow, this guy literally has nobody. He's throwing to nobody. And his offensive line is shaky at best sometimes. And they've been better recently, but they've been shaky sometimes throughout the season. He is taking all of this in stride and flowing through the offense and winning games. And he looked more to me like the leader and the future at the quarterback position for the Giants in week 16 than any other week. And that's when I was locked in. I was like, all right, I think this guy needs to be our QB.
So Matt, as you've kind of been, watching some of this progress kind of from a distance, obviously paying closer attention to the Eagles, talk about them defensively. What do you think the Eagles got to do to slow down the offense? Because now it looks like a much more legitimate offense. A lot of the numbers you could look at early in the season. So the Giants were bottom half of the league statistically across the board, but they've kind of ticked up to league average because of what they've been able to do in the back half of the season, getting a lot harder. What I do find interesting about the Giants, and I didn't realize this until just a few minutes ago, is they are actually third overall in total first downs this season, which I think that's just kind of when you go back and think about their games, like that's kind of how they stayed alive. Like they average about 21 points a game, just right middle of the road, league average, nothing special. But they were top 5 in overall first downs, 3rd overall, and they just kept moving the chains. Like they didn't have a lot of those big chunk plays early on. They were relying on Saquon to break one, and then it kind of seems like all that's continued to trend forward. And a lot of those other metrics have kind of improved over the course of the season as they've gotten better. So, Matt, my question to you is, did you realize that they were gaining first downs at that rate over the course of the season? And what do the Eagles kind of have to do defensively to slow them down? Because I do think this is not the same team that you guys played either week. This isn't the 48-22 team, and it's also not the backup Davis Mills or Davis Webb team as well. So kind of what do you want to see defensively to slow them down? Because the Eagles are a top 3 defense. Like this is one of the best defenses in the league, very talented across the board. Number 3 overall defense according to Pro Football Focus. They're top 5 in DVOA. So, I mean, it's no small task for the Giants offense, but they are coming in hot.
No, absolutely. And you got to win the game in the trenches. So we obviously held Saquon to the 26 yards rushing in the first meeting. But like they said, DJ's starting to come along. We're really kind of using his legs, and they're not really so reliant on Saquon. So you're going to have to account for him as well, and you can't let him beat you with his legs either. A big matchup that I'm looking at is if they line up Hodgins in the slot a lot. Obviously, Slay and Bradbury like to stay on the outside, and with Avonte Maddox hurt, Josiah Scott's going to have his hands full with Hodgins because Hodgins is coming along. He's going to be DJ's kind of security blanket or the guy that DJ's kind of looking for first. But this is going to be Jonathan Gannon versus Brian Daboll. And throughout the year, Eagles fans have definitely been on Gannon's case. If you match up both of them, obviously you're going to pick up Daboll all day and think Daboll has the edge. But it's going to be on Gannon to kind of switch up his defense throughout the game, adjust to what Daboll is doing, because he does rely heavily on the 4-man front, and I know that we get home a lot with the 4-man front. We've obviously had 4 players over 10 sacks this year. We led the league in sacks. I mean, it's a great front, but you're going to have to switch it up. You're going to have to throw some blitzes at DJ to get him rattled, especially in the environment that's going to be at the link. It's going to be loud. You got to get him out of his comfort zone. You got to force him to make mistakes. And all that, at the rate of them getting the first downs, I didn't even know that. That was a great stat. It's kudos to Daboll. He hasn't played disciplined football. You win on 3rd down in these games, and especially when it comes to the playoffs. If you win the turnover ratio, if you convert on 3rd down, you're going to be in there at the end to kind of win this game.
And you got to be able to get it in 3rd and short as well. Like we saw that kind of happen to Tampa Bay where, I mean, they were just in 2nd and 8, 3rd and 8 all night long, and you can't be in that position against an even more talented defense in Philadelphia and expect to come out on top. So the Eagles do create a lot of pressure. Joe, it seems like you've been pretty satisfied overall with what this offensive line has done this season. It seems like they've taken some pretty significant strides. Some of that is probably scheme, how they're helping out the line. Like, is there anything specific that's jumped out to you that they're doing? Because it does seem like they've taken like what was a bottom 3 offensive line and made them functional as opposed to what we saw last year, where it really was, probably the last couple seasons was really tough.
It's all coaching. Like everyone likes to joke around sometimes that this is literally Dave Gettleman's team. I mean, every single impact player on the Giants right now is either drafted or picked up by Dave Gettleman. Like he built this team and it was a horrible team for years. And then Brian Daboll came in. And also kudos to Wink Martindale on the other side of the ball, who's been also killing it and bringing the best out of people. And every single player improves at every single spot. The offensive line is better. The receivers, it's almost like place and plug. We're just finding guys that kind of fit within this system that are these outcast kind of guys, these fringe NFL players, and that there are starting 3 receivers now, and they're all extremely productive. It's just we're seeing certain guys have the best seasons of their life. Obviously, Andrew Thomas has been carrying this offensive line, too, the entire season. He's been one of the best tackles in football all year, and his improvement was just massive. And I think we were very young at certain spots, and when you're very young, when you're learning a new offense, there's only up. There's only up that you can go. You can only improve, and they've been getting more and more comfortable, and I think it's showing for sure.
Neil's
this,
gonna have his handful with a Reddick. Neil's gonna have his handful with
Yeah.
Reddick.
Yeah, Evan Neal has had his struggles still, for sure, but they'll plan for it. They always do. They always do.
Yeah, because the Eagles generate pressure at the number one rate on about a quarter of dropbacks, 25% overall. Giants are surprisingly fourth. How do you feel about that, Matt? I'm surprised. I didn't realize the Giants were generating that much pressure overall. Fourth, fifth, sixth, sorry.
Got two beasts on the inside.
Dexter
Lawrence.
Dexter Lawrence is having a great year, and he's definitely coming on even late when it matters most. But I mean, you're going against the best offensive line in football, and you're going against Jason Kelsey, and you're going against Jordan Mailata, and you're going against Lane Johnson, who has been playing lights out this whole entire year. They're going to have their hands full. Jason Kelsey is obviously an all-pro. He knows when to switch it up. He helps Jalen Hurts dramatically. So hopefully they have a game plan for Dexter Lawrence. I don't know. Am I mistaken? When the first meeting, who were you guys missing? Were you mixing Dexter Lawrence and McKinney, or just McKinney?
I think we were missing McKinney, and I think we were missing Leonard Williams against you guys.
Or it might have been Leonard Williams and McKinney. And you
Yeah, I think it was Leonard Williams and McKinney. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, just speaking on that first game, this sounds like a great time for our second receipt of the night. This one's going towards Giant Up. Same night as the first receipt, Giant Up tweeted after a 48-22 loss. And I quote, "As miserable as that game was to watch, I'm okay with it. We're in a completely different place as a franchise than the Eagles. They are contending. We are in year one of turning this franchise around. Be patient. Our time is coming." End quote. My question to you guys is, how has your perspective shifted from that brutal Week 14 loss to coming off your best win of the season last week and now playing for a trip to the NFC Championship? Is it going to take a perfect game to stop these Eagles that their offense is simply too hard to stop, according to Eagle Up? And is it your time? Has your time officially come?
I'll speak on that first, since that was my tweet. And yeah, at the time too, listen, I said that our time was coming, and I didn't think that it would come so soon. That's what I'll say. I didn't think that we would be in this position, especially after that blowout loss to the Eagles, to be in a divisional round playoff game against them for the third time, coming together as a team, looking better than we ever have. This could be our time, Bob. This could be it, dude. And I don't know if the Eagles know what's coming. I think the great thing is that everyone is still sleeping. Like, I love now that we're back in a comfortable spread. We've been at -7.5 all year, Bob. Pull up the stats. We've been at -6, -7.
Yeah.
We've been living around those numbers all year. Everyone's going to say that the Eagles are going to pound us, but we're going to come in. Everyone's going to sleep on DJ. They're going to be focused on Saquon, and DJ's going to light it up in Philadelphia. Eli said he would never come back to Philadelphia. He's going to be at the game because he knows it's that important. It's a big one, Bob. It's a big one.
I don't know if that's good for you guys, because he's had horrible games at 11. Horrible games.
Yeah, but yeah.
Listen, he's an absolute
But he's
legend.
a unicorn.
Yeah, what I will say also is that every week, watching this Giants football game and the game plan that Dable rolls up for them is like watching Game of Thrones every week. It's like, you're like, what am I going to see this week? Because it's always something new, and you're always amazed, and you're like, this guy is a wizard. Because he's literally, it's not, I mean, DJ is just good on his own now, but he's at the point where him and DJ are in such synchronization. And I can't believe me or Joe haven't said it yet, but can we shout out Mike Kafka? I mean, the guy is, people want him, no? And he's turning down interviews. He's locked in, and he knows exactly what our team needs in terms of kind of getting that offense going. So, I mean, yeah, like Joe said, we've literally been, I'd rather be the underdog. I love it. We have nothing to lose. I think Joe's tweet aged pretty well because it's like, yeah, he's like saying like right now our time has come. It came sooner than we thought. When we lost to the Eagles, we were coming off losses to another NFC East opponent, being the Commanders, and we lost to the Lions bad at home. That was like the beginning of like the deflation right there. And then we kind of turned things around, and now it's like, who knows? Anything could happen. And that's the beautiful thing about it right now, that going into this game, being a Giant fan, there's hope. When's the last time I've been in January with any type of hope for this team? Years.
Yeah, and that's all you can really ask for at this point. Then yeah, like you said, I mean the samples we're taking, we're predicting this game off of are tough to predict, because obviously we're saying week 14 Giants were a little down. I know Matt thinks that's BS, but Giants were a little down and they got beat up pretty bad. And then week 18, the Giants hardly didn't play any of their starters. So not many samples to look off of, but I think it's going to be like my prediction. And full disclosure to you guys, I filled out a playoff bracket, and I had the Eagles and the Giants both winning as many playoff games as the New York Jets this year. I thought they were both going to lose in the first round. Well, obviously Eagles had a bye. I thought the Cowboys were going to go to Philly and beat the Eagles. But I think this is a great matchup. I think this is going to be a great weekend. I think both NFC games are going to be good ones. And I agree, Joe. I think people are sleeping on the Giants. I think it's going to be closer than people think. But I'm not gonna pick a team for the sake of less chaos on this podcast. I'm not going to pick a win, but I think it's going to be a really good game, and I think there's been a lot of good points made tonight on why that's going to be.
It's a dangerous mixture. It is. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm fully 100% confident that we're going to come out there and smack you guys. I mean, look, I've seen it happen before. I'm from North Jersey, back in 07 and 11. I know that they somehow make this happen, but I just think that the Eagles are too good. They're a better football team in all aspects of the game right now. I don't think Jalen Hurts, especially as the leader that he is at any point looking at the Giants like this is going to be an easy win. He's going to have that team ready. You would be stupid not to. This is a division opponent. Anything can happen. I mean, their first loss of the season was to the Commanders. They had no business losing that game either. But the Giants are hot. You got to come in there. The Link's going to be rocking. You're probably going to have a sold out crowd. You got to smack them in the mouth right away. You do, and especially against a division rival. There's going to be no playing around anymore. You might even have the Cowboys. If whoever wins this game, which obviously I predict the Eagles are going to win this game, you're going to most likely maybe have the Cowboys or the 49ers. But if the Cowboys can even somehow get into Purdy's face and rattle him a little bit, they have a really good shot at winning that game. So one of us is going to have to – you're going to have to possibly beat a team 3 times to make it to the Super Bowl, whether it's us or it's them. So, I mean, I don't think anybody should be overlooking anything at this point.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that because I really didn't realize that stat you threw out earlier where teams are 12-5 overall. The 2-0 teams 12-5 overall. So be interested to see how the Giants handle that. But honestly, we've talked about this a lot throughout the season where what the Giants have done is nothing short of incredible. Like, I'm pretty sure the win total on them was like 6.5 or something coming into the season. And we were trying to find a way for them to get to 7 or 8, and that would have been a massive win for this season. Now they won a game away from the NFC Championship. So I will say this, just kind of looking over this matchup a little more, is Daniel Jones is going to have to throw the ball deep. That's what's going to be interesting, because when you look at just some of these player grades and stats for the Eagles, I mean, it really is ridiculous. Like, where the Giants are strong on the interior, it's exactly where the Eagles are strong. So that's going to be a bit of a strength-on-strength matchup that's fun to watch. Where it does look like there's a little bit of weakness is in the back end of that secondary for the Eagles. And it's going to be interesting to see if that's something that Daboll, who clearly is one of the best game planners, him and Sirianni both are 2 of the best play callers in the league, honestly. Both of them are extremely adaptive, and they're constantly attacking the other weakness. I mean, they came out and threw like crazy against the Vikings, who have the worst secondary in the league, or one of the worst, easily bottom 5. And they didn't try to just put their head down and just hand it off to Saquon over and over and hope for the best. They said, no, screw it. They suck deep. Let's throw the ball. Let's throw the ball deep. So I think that's something that they're going to have to potentially attack at times with the Eagles as well. And they've got to be able to get the ball out quick enough too. So I want to see if Darius Slayton can kind of beat them deep, because I think that's got to be one where I think that's got to be the area that they succeed to be able to keep up with the Eagles. Because I do think A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, I think they're probably going to get theirs. I think if that defense for the Giants doesn't get home, they're going to get burnt deep. I mean, that's what Wink Martindale does. He blitzes and blitzes. Jalen Hurts is pretty good against pressure so far this year. We'll see if that can hold. So to counter that, I mean, I think Daniel Jones has got to hit Slayton deep a couple times, because he's the burner. I mean, can Hodgins or someone else kind of break through? Do you just see it? Does it have to be Slayton?
Riv, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing with DJ is, and we didn't even really last week, I wouldn't even use the word deep. I would say that we definitely, DJ picked apart their secondary a little bit. But I think that we've actually gotten away from that deep ball. And I don't think it has anything to do with DJ being able to throw it. It really has been more of a timing thing. I mean, his whole career here, he never did have time. And even this year with that, with Andrew Thomas kind of leading the way for us, we still have, I would say our offensive line isn't where we would want it to be. So it's more of a question of, are we going to get that time to get our guys in the position and DJ in the position to, kind of throw it up. And I think that Darius Slayton could be that. He has been that guy for DJ that, he kind of could break one loose and get out there. But going back to what you said about the Eagles receiving core, which is, it's a great receiving core, one of the best in the league, I would say. But I mean, you could look at last week, what Adoree Jackson came back from just being injured, his first game back, and he kind of silenced Justin Jefferson in that second half. Honestly, outside of the first quarter, Jay Jeff didn't really do much. So I think that guys like A.J. Brown, who are, very talented as well, I think that it might be a little bit more quiet for them in a game like that against the Giants secondary, who also got Xavier McKinney back fully healthy. So guys like Devontae Smith and them trying to get him, open downfield, I think it's going to be tough. So I think that it's like you said before, there's ways to combat the strengths and weaknesses of both teams. So that's what's going to make it an interesting game.
Matt, any thoughts to that before we wrap up here?
Yeah, especially on the offensive side of the ball, they're obviously going to try and not have A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith beat you. Jalen Hurts is going to get his. He's going to scramble. He's going to have his runs. He's going to have his rushing yards. Hopefully Sanders can have the game he did against the first time against the Giants. But Dallas Goedert should be on Sirianni's radar this week. Hockenson had 2 huge games against the Giants when in the playoff game and on Christmas Eve. So that's going to be a big matchup. We know their linebackers are not that great in coverage, whether you line up a slot corner on Goddard. But Goddard's going to win that matchup 9 times out of 10. He's going to be a huge piece this week, especially if A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, it's not going their way. I mean, this is a playoff game, like Cody was saying. If you have to adjust, and Sirianni does that great, Slayton does that great, you have to get to the ball in players' hands that are going to be open, the mismatches, and, win the playoff game. Go out and win it. That's all you got to do.
Rob, you got anything you want to add here? Anything else you want to throw out?
Not too much. Thanks for hopping on, boys. I'm excited to watch this one, and I think it's going to be real close. I do, and I have no idea what's going to happen in the NFC playoffs. Actually, I have no idea what's going to happen in the playoffs. The AFC is maybe even crazier. So, 1 week at a time. I think this is obviously the biggest game of the year for both you guys, and I can't wait to see it. I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's going to come down to the last possession. I will say that. That's my prediction.
I got the game finishing at 31-24, Giants.
I said I wasn't going to pick. But I'm going to go 24-20 Eagles, but the Giants are going to be in a kind of situation where they can't kick a field goal on their last drive. They're going to have to go for it on 4th down, going to be in the red zone. I don't think they're going to get it. That's my prediction.
34-20.
Heartbreaking.
34-20
The battle.
Birds.
34-20. It's 2-score
We got a
win.
beat down. Is it Matt? Is it a beatdown or is it a garbage time touchdown off
No,
of
I
like a
think-
pick six with a minute left?
I think it's close until like the fourth quarter, and then we're gonna go away. We're gonna score twice. We're gonna score once. We're gonna stop them. You're gonna go down, and you're gonna put the game away.
Joe, what do you got?
Giants win 31-30.
Oh.
And I'm nauseous for 3 straight quarters. Okay?
Well, I got the Eagles in the Super Bowl going down to the Bills, so I gotta stick with my pick in Philly. I do think that even if I didn't have them, I would roll with them. I'm going to go 27-23 Eagles. I think the Giants can do enough to keep it close, especially with Dabo at the helm. But the Eagles' talent is truly impressive. I don't think it's their time to bow out just yet, even though they've had some hiccups along the way the last 4 or 5 weeks, which you never want to see. But it's going to be a fun one. I mean, certainly on upset alert. I think the Giants have covered in about 80% of their games, by the way, which was a crazy stat. So that -7.5, I think we may see potentially a nice little one-score game or even potentially a field goal game. So certainly opportunity there for the Giants. Either way, we look forward to watching this game, fellas. I appreciate you appreciate you coming on here. You know where you can find Joe and Justin at Giant Up Pod on Twitter. Check them out. Follow them on Apple, Spotify, wherever podcasts are found. If you prefer to bleed green, you can check out Matt at Eagle Up Pod. Go give him a follow and find him on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere else. You know where you can find Rob and myself at RobMcW24. You can find me at Cody Ingle. Check us out at rostermedia.com and rostermedia on all social channels. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thanks, guys, for jumping on.
Thanks for having us, Cody.
Thank you. Go Birds.
Absolutely.
Go